So, yeah,
There was a game.
there was a game. First off, hey, welcome, I guess. Welcome. Oklahoma lost. I believe, let me look at the score here. If I remember correctly, it was 20.
It was 25-15,
I
Brandon.
know what it was,
25.
man. I'm being sarcastic. I was just trying to play into the cold open, but 25-15. Yeah, Oklahoma loses to Tennessee. The defense was really good. The offense was awful. But we do want to thank Jana King for being a proud sponsor. Parker, take
Yes,
it.
well, I imagine they would be prouder if Oklahoma had won the game, as they are also a proud partner of OU Athletics. But yes, Janet King is the greatest team to ever clean. They deliver spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. You can visit them at janetking.com for unbeatable commercial cleaning services. Go Sooners. That's the word from our friends at Janet King. So, yeah, Brandon, I let's not bury the lead. There's a lot to talk about surrounding this game, but
Mhm.
there is one storyline that dwarfs all others tonight. I say tonight, it's the wee hours of Sunday morning. It is late, late, or early,
Yeah.
early, depending on how you look at it.
It's two
Um,
fifteen in the morning when we just started recording.
um,
Just so everybody knows. Dedication.
there has been a switch at the quarterback position.
Now hold on now. Brent Benton, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
we all
hey,
know.
Seth
We all know.
Luttrell and Brent Venables did not want to agree to those terms, and they said there will be a QB battle. Essentially, even Seth Luttrell didn't even want to talk about it. He came straight forward and said, "I'm not talking about the quarterback position
Which
in
good.
the post
Like
game." Yeah,
he's
whatever.
he's earned that right, to go
Yeah.
chew on the loss for a day or two, and there will be a time and a place to address that. I imagine Brent Venables will in his Tuesday presser. But yeah, Michael Hawkins is the guy. Michael
Yeah.
Hawkins is the guy. And there were very few bright spots tonight on offense for Oklahoma, Brandon. But I think what we saw down the stretch with Hawkins at the controls lent
Yeah.
some optimism that if you get 60 minutes of that kid and you get a strong effort from the defense, the likes of which we saw tonight because they were awesome, that you can go and win football games. Can you beat anybody and everybody on this schedule? I don't know about
Probably
that.
not.
Not right now, not the way they look, but you can definitely go get right next week against Auburn. That's a bad football team. And with the way OU's defense looked tonight, shoot, Brandon, Auburn might not score on Oklahoma next
I'm
week.
not even gonna
So,
go. I look. Here's the deal, and this is where I stand right now with this team. I think the defense is awesome. I think it's one of the best defenses in college football. That said, going down to Auburn, I don't care how bad they are. I've seen and I've heard us and other media members speak like that before, right? Where they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that. And game time rolls around, and that's exactly what they do to Oklahoma. So I just like coming off this loss, like I don't know where this team's mindset is. It felt like in the post game interviews with the players, it felt like their head was in the right spot. It did. You had Danny Stutzman saying all the right things, and I think of all the people his head is always going to be the right spot. Ethan Downs, according to Fabici Wewu and Danny Stutzman and a few others, the leaders, their heads in the right spot. Ethan Downs called everybody the second everybody got into the locker room. I mean, he huddled them all in and just started ripping and saying what they weren't going to do and what they were going to do from this point on. Not really letting the team sulk on that loss, which is great. But Brenton Venables' body language, his tone, his answers, how I don't even know how I would describe it. It felt like he was pissed, number one, which
well,
he should have been.
yeah. I
But
mean,
I
look,
mean,
they lost a football game, and I mean, they got
that was a different Brent, man. Like he was quippy
well.
about everything.
when you say quippy, what do you mean by that?
I don't want to name the reporters' names or anything, but there was a few reporters that asked questions, and he would
Yeah.
come back
Well,
and
I
like
mean,
literally would snap back at him.
I think the reality is Venables is dealing with one of the toughest situations that he's had to face as a head coach,
Yeah.
which is the dethronement of one quarterback and the ascension of another. And that's never an easy thing for a coach to reckon with, especially when that guy, Jackson Arnold, Brandon, that he committed to Oklahoma
Hmm.
a month and a half after Brent Venables took the job. He was the foundational piece of
He was
everything that
stuck with
Venables,
them.
yeah. I mean, he's the foundational piece
Yeah.
of everything that Venables and that staff has built over the last few years. And like, look, we're going to need to go into detail for people because there's a lot that's been put out there and rightfully so. And we probably need to retrace some of the steps that have led up to this point where you have a situation on your hands. And it's not even a situation like we all know Mike Hawkins is going to start next week against Auburn.
Yeah.
The torch has been passed, the baton, if you will, has been passed.
Did it
But
but did it
I
feel
the
like they were did it feel like they were the coaches did it feel like they were kind of almost mourning?
yeah, well, and look, you it's only human to do that. And I hope
Yeah.
amidst this whole discussion, we can all find some humanity here because there is no one I wish all of this less upon or upon less than Jackson Arnold
Agreed.
because I can't imagine being in his shoes tonight because you log into social media and everybody's talking about how much you suck, how much you've been holding this team back. And he he experienced all of the things that we saw. He
Mhm.
knows three turnovers is three turnovers. He knows they were all ugly turnovers, and you still got to face the music. And again, you got to log into your social media feed where Lord knows your name is going to be plastered all over it and not in a flattering way. And Jackson Arnold, man, look, it's all between the ears with him right now. That much is
Mhm.
very, very evident. It's not a question of physical ability. That's always been there. He's just not right in the head. And that's a hard place to be for a quarterback, especially when
Yeah.
you are a guy that's been blessed with all of the physical abilities that he has. And moreover, he's not a pariah. He's not a prima donna. He's a good leader. He's a good teammate. It's unfortunate that this is what it's come to, Brandon. But ultimately, if you're the starting quarterback at the University of Oklahoma and you're not delivering, and in fact, you're actively hurting your team's chances to win football games, a reckoning is coming. And I, again, I don't wish it upon Jackson Arnold. I feel
Mm.
terrible for him, but it became very clear tonight that the guy that gives you a chance to win football games going forward, or I should say the guy that gives you the best chance is Michael Hawkins.
Mhm. Yeah. I guess the and the, I want to ask this just get your opinion because I have my own opinion on this.
Yeah.
And it's one that I think people will actually be surprised that would be my opinion just because they understand how I feel about Jackson Arnold as a person, as a player, all that type of stuff. Um, hmm. Hypothetically, let's say, and God forbid, you never want this to happen, but something was to happen to Hawkins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you go to Arnold? Do you go to Thompson?
I think you go back to Arnold.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, and it depends on when, like I don't think you go back to Arnold next week, but if you give him a month on the practice field to just sort some stuff out, kind of feel the relief of all of the pressure that's been on his shoulders for a long time. Look, and it's an inexact comparison, but
Mhm.
it's the one that everybody's going to make the Spencer Rattler comparison, right? Spencer Rattler went to South Carolina and he figured it out.
Yeah.
He shored up his weaknesses. He got right in the head. And once he was right in the head, the arm talent was always there.
Yeah.
And so it clicked. it clicked for him at South Carolina. And now he's in the NFL and will likely wind up getting a chance to start at some point, be that in New Orleans or elsewhere. So this is not this is not the end of the book for Jackson Arnold by any
Mhm.
means. But again, Hawkins is your guy moving forward. And I I want to bring up two things here. Two things that kind of illustrate, or I should say, open the door to an illustration of how things got to this point. So our own Damian Mackey, who is, of course, is the co-host of the Barry and Mack show for OU Insider. He tweeted out the eyeball emojis midway through the game. I think about the time that Hawkins had the scoring drive and said, maybe the rumors from all summer are true. And then there
Mhm.
was a listener, or I should say a member, not a listener, a member over on the OUinsider.com VIP board that said, or rather asked in the post game questions thread. Now that the cat's out of the bag, is there anything more you could share about the quarterbacks during camp that you may have withheld for good reason? No reason to start a panic during summer fall camp. Genuinely curious if this was brewing behind the scenes and everyone was just hoping it would have never
Mhm.
got to this point. Also, just a thought I can't get out of my head tonight. I feel really horrible for Jackson and hope he's okay. Can't imagine what he's going through. And uh, to address the question therein, yes, this has been brewing behind the scenes for some
Mhm.
time. And yes, it was a situation where you were just hoping it never got to this point because Michael Hawkins had been spectacular and had, in many sources' estimation, outperformed Jackson Arnold on the
Mhm.
practice field in spring and in fall. And immediately there are going to be two instant reactions when people hear me say that, right? It's going to be, well, why wouldn't you have just come out and said that? Why wouldn't you just have made us aware of that?
Mhm.
Because again, there is no sense in feeding into a quote unquote panic when it doesn't need to exist. For instance, if Jackson Arnold opens the season as the starter, which he was always going to do, and some of the ineffectiveness that has plagued him on the practice field, or just some of the things that he hasn't seen or has been working through, suddenly those go away, and he rises to the occasion. If he just ends up being a gamer, then, well, it was much ado about nothing, right?
Yeah.
And the plan all along, the ideal plan was always 2 years of Arnold. He hands off to Hawkins, who hands off to the next guy. And Michael Hawkins came to Oklahoma with that impression. He was always going
Yep.
to push Arnold. He was never going to take anything for granted, but he understood that for the first 2 years of his collegiate career, he might be playing second fiddle to Jackson Arnold. And he was okay with that. But obviously, it just does not make sense to play up the drama if there isn't reason to be playing up the drama. And
Yeah.
until the team hits the field in the fall, there just isn't. So that's the reason why, and we and many others all said some very glowing things about what Michael Hawkins had done on the practice
Yeah.
field. But it, can you imagine the chaos that would have ensued if any one of us had just come out and said in April, boy, Michael Hawkins ought to be the starting quarterback at the University of Oklahoma. I mean, that's just it's a mushroom cloud at that point. There's a multiplicity of reasons why you just can't do that, and that's what makes our jobs tricky, right? Is it's as much about what you do say, or I should say it's as much about what you don't say as what you do in many cases. But then the second reaction is going to be, yay, balloons. I don't know why on earth I get that. Nobody listening on the audio side has any idea. Everybody on YouTube just saw a bunch of CGI balloons all over my screen. But the second reaction is going to be, well, why on earth would these coaches have started Arnold over Hawkins if they knew Hawkins was better? And the answer to that question, Brandon, it ought to be self-explanatory. But some people just have a hard time seeing it through the lens of a head football coach or an offensive coordinator at a school like the University of Oklahoma. You hitched your wagon to Jackson Arnold. You hitched your wagon to Jackson Arnold when you brought him in as a five-star prospect in the class of
Yeah.
2023 and allowed Dylan Gabriel to walk out the door because Jackson Arnold did so many great things on the practice field a year ago and did so many great things when he was called upon in games that you had reason to believe your offense's ceiling was higher with Arnold at the controls than Dylan Gabriel. And so what happens again if you all of a sudden pivot and hand the reins right off the bat, week one, to a true freshman, and he goes and plays like a true freshman? Maybe he's been great on the practice field, but all of a sudden he gets out there and he's a deer in the headlights. He's turning the ball over. And now everybody's wondering what on earth you saw in this true freshman that would have caused you to completely change course on everything that you had kind of set in motion with regard to the direction of your program and the direction of your offense, uh, because Jackson Arnold was the centerpiece of it all. And this is a conversation that I don't know if we've had on the podcast. I know I've had it on the radio with my colleagues, but if this switch was going to be made, it had to be decisive and it had to be past due. You had to give Jackson Arnold every opportunity to hand the job to Michael Hawkins. And unfortunately, that is what happened tonight.
Yeah.
One too many mistakes and one too many just head scratching mistakes. Now, mistakes that can't really, again, there's no blame that can be cast anywhere but directly on Jackson Arnold for the 3 turnovers tonight. Unfortunate as that is.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing people need to realize is that there was, as good as Hawkins was during fall camp, there were still mistakes that were made that were freshman mistakes that people would, there was always, every time you got the same thing, information that I got, it was always, man, he is awesome when he figures this thing out. This dude is going to be a flat superstar, but he still makes freshman mistakes, which is whatever. I mean, so does Jackson Arnold because he's only played 5 games. So you're really you were going into the season one way or the other with a new face, and you Dylan Gabriel left for Jackson Arnold to take over. I think that's the other thing that people tend to forget is Dylan Gabriel left for Jackson Arnold to take over. And let's say that in the spring, Hawkins beat him out and was named the starter early on in the spring because he was that good. You want to know what happens? Jackson Arnold dips out. Now you're left with Brendan Zerbrug and Michael Hawkins as your quarterbacks.
And
That
Casey
that
Thompson,
that's
obviously.
and well, he wasn't. Well, I guess yeah, he just transferred in. Yeah, so yeah, I guess you would be okay with the Casey Thompson part, but you just
Yeah.
you don't really want your third guy to be. No offense, Brendan Zerbrug. I'm not trying to, but it's just he's not the same level as those the three the main 3 guys are they're different level.
Yeah.
And Jackson was good during spring and fall camp. I think that's the other thing that people tend to and everybody goes, well, was he making those interceptions and mistakes during fall camp? Actually, no. Spring, yes.
Yes, there were
Yeah.
mistakes in spring.
Yeah. Fall camp, no. He wasn't making. As a matter of fact, there was only one scrimmage where people said, okay, there was an issue. But you also have to take in consideration, and I know OU fans, you all watch the same defense we watched, right? Out there tonight. That's what they were going up against. So everybody's inclination going into the season was, well, this defense is really freaking good. So whenever they go against these other teams, Jackson is going to be way better. He's going to be the Jackson everybody thinks he's going to be because of that. Well,
Yeah.
what I think, and this is my theory, is that defense whooped his butt so bad during fall camp that, and I asked it, you and I asked this question to sources, right? Like, what about the confidence part? Like, aren't y'all afraid of
Yeah.
this? And there were sources that said no. Um, I guarantee you they're kicking themselves now, saying we probably should have not thrown as many looks at that kid and confused the crap out of him all fall camp and all spring. And they were doing it so that when things happened in the season, the looks would be easier than what Venable's defense was going to give him. Because the defense they run, obviously, look what it did to Iamale Lava today, right? Like he was confused as crap all game.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I don't know, man. Like there's so many ways to look at this thing, and at the same time, you still, like you said, there's that humanity part of it that you're just like, dang, that sucks for the kid. Like
Yeah.
the scene that you got to see where Nick Anderson is like in his ear, and you could just say Jackson did not want to hear it. He was listening, but he didn't want to hear it. And he's just like out in space. Looks like he's about to cry, which, you know, who can blame him at
Probably
that time?
was. Like I
Yeah,
I
who can
wouldn't
blame
fault
him?
him.
Yeah, like who can blame him at that point? And so, like, I, you just feel bad for the kid. Like you're
Yeah.
happy for Michael Hawkins. At the same time, you feel bad for Jackson Arnold. That play that Michael Hawkins made, even though they didn't count it, where he flipped into the end zone, like, come on. I want to
Oh,
know how they're so sure that 3 inches, 4 inches, whatever they put the ball at, that they were so sure that's exactly where it was and that it didn't cross the goal line. They're not. They're not sure. Like that. It is wild. There was a 6 inch and a 4 inch stop with Michael Hawkins.
yeah.
Like, how do you
But
know that? That is like this, dude. Like you can't prove that.
yeah, well, the kid left it all out there tonight and
He
tipped the cap
did.
to him because he did everything possible to get OU back in that football game. And uh, it, the one thing that I have always said about Michael Hawkins, and I'd love to go back and see how many podcasts I've said these exact words about Hawkins. Whenever his time comes, he's gonna be ready,
Yeah.
and he was ready tonight. And
That first
he was.
snap was very Caleb Williams-esque,
I know
like
that's kind of what that was my first thought. I was like,
it's
oh
like,
boy,
oh, I know
here
how
we
to,
go again. Texas
yeah.
2021. Part duh. But
Fumble.
yeah. No, here's the other angle to all of this is that you have to take into account the circumstances
Yeah.
and the personnel that surround both Hawkins and Arnold. Because I'll be quite candid here and I'll peel back the curtain. Back in the spring when Jackson was having some ups and downs and Mike was coming on really, really strong. I was asking people within the program and in close proximity to the program, hey, like, is this a conversation worth having? Like, is there a conversation, or is there an argument to be made that Hawkins might give you a better chance to win than Arnold? And there were some that said, "Oh yeah, that kid's the real deal, like Hawkins all the way." And then there were others that said, "No, no, no, of course not. Like this is still Jackson's team. Uh, it has to do with learning the new offensive system or adapting
Mhm.
it over from what you were familiar with Levy, combined with just a very strong defense." But as fall camp rolled along, asking a lot
Mhm.
of people, Brandon, who do you think amongst between the two quarterbacks that are seriously in contention for the starting job? Uh, which of those two do you think give Oklahoma the best chance to win? Everyone, to a man, said Hawkins.
Yeah, I got
But
one that said the
but the
same thing.
rationale for that was very, very interesting. And this plugs in directly to the point I'm trying to make here is that the rationale that was reiterated to me over and over and over again from different people in and around the program is that the reason Hawkins gives you a better chance to win than Arnold is because behind this offensive line, he's the only one that's going to be able to keep the offense afloat
Hmm.
due to his mobility and the innate capacity that he has to scramble around and make something out of absolutely nothing at times.
Yeah.
And I, there was kind of that understanding, especially once those injuries started to pile up on the offensive line, that, okay, things might be rocky for a while up front. And a guy like Jackson Arnold is probably a little bit less equipped naturally to deal with the perils of operating behind that offensive line than a guy like Michael Hawkins is. And so moving forward, Brandon, here's what encourages me. Here's what encourages me about the prospect of Oklahoma getting this thing on track offensively is that if Hawkins is your guy, and again, there's really no reason to think after what we saw tonight that they aren't going to proceed with him as the starter. That kid has never had a strong offensive line in his life to work behind. Did not have a strong offensive line at Allen, did not have a too terribly strong offensive line at Frisco Emerson. But if you look at what he did at both of those places, he did not turn the ball over, and he was statistically prolific, despite the fact that he spent a good deal of time running for his life.
Mm.
And so he is accustomed to this. He has learned to kind of develop the sixth sense, if you will, for when he needs to bail, when he needs to abandon plans and just go off script. And that is a skill that's going to serve him well and is going to be a necessity in this Oklahoma offense for them to have a chance at flourishing.
Yeah.
Because with as beleaguered as they are at wide receiver right now, it's going to be tough. Like it's going to be tough to establish a consistent passing attack when you're throwing to the likes of Zion Reagans and Brennan Thompson. No disrespect to those guys, but they're small, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to last year when you have Nick Anderson on one side and Andrell Anthony on the other. Both those guys, 6'4" on one end, 6'2" on the other, and they're both deep threats that can run with anybody. So
Just can't stay healthy.
you're operating with a bit of a ramshackle receiving core, guys that have talent certainly, but that did not come into the season with the expectation, certainly amongst the fan base, that they were going to be A1 options in this
Mm-hmm.
offense. And so you're going to have a guy back there under center that is ready and willing to step up to the challenge of less than ideal circumstances, a less than ideal offensive line that has its flaws, as we saw tonight. You're going to have a guy that is willing to just run to the fire. And what I've always loved about Michael Hawkins is that's what he's wired to do, man. A guy that is not wired like that never commits to the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Because how many guys want to follow a 5-star? Michael Hawkins not only did that, but as of tonight, he has surpassed that 5-star on the depth chart.
That he has. I think the other talking point that we probably need to touch on is injuries.
Yeah,
Like, I'll just tell you. I think Jalil Farouk's moving pretty fast. I know
that's good
people want
news.
him, but they want him back for Texas. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's
But
asking a lot.
yeah, but um, the week after, I bet he plays.
Which would
Just,
be what, South
just a
Carolina?
yeah, just a
I,
hunch.
yeah, I think if you get him
Yeah,
back there,
I'm not saying
that'll
that.
happen.
I'm not just saying that out of a hunch. I'm saying that because I pretty good source tells me that's the target date for his return. So that's good news for Oklahoma. Obviously Jaden Gibson's not coming back, but I'll say this, speaking to somebody close to Jaden Gibson's, there is not a more clear-minded player when it comes to receiver than Jaden Gibson. And I'll even expound on that a little bit. From what I'm told, he was at game day this morning. Um, and he is enjoying the life of a student. And a source close to him said, look, he gets to do that, and he wouldn't get to do that if he wasn't injured.
Yeah.
Number one, so he's taking full advantage of it. Number two, he feels that there is a blessing in disguise with how this all went down because not only does he feel like he's going to be better upon his return, and I quote from this source, he's going to return to a team that probably will be able to compete for the SEC title and potential national title next year because of everybody they potentially return and that they expect to return next year on both sides of the ball. So there is a lot of good that comes from and I think the Kendall Dolby situation, I think, is very similar. Parker, you and I talked
Yeah,
about this
it's
after.
just
I mean,
and it's
it's an
awful.
unfortunate I mean, I feel bad. He needs prayers. Like that sucks. I just that was disgusting, by the way. Um, but he's going to get a medical hardship, and now
Yeah.
you're going to have Kendall Dolby back as well next year to go along with everybody else you're going to have back on that defense. That is nasty. You're losing Stutzman, you're losing Billy Bowman for sure.
It's just
Outside of that, and Woody Washington,
downs.
everybody else
Downs.
returns. And I think after tonight, after that, there was one like I don't want to call it a bad spot on the defense. I'll just say there was one issue on the defense tonight, and that was Woody Washington's coverage. He was not. He got beat twice.
Yeah,
And
they need some
then
answers
on
at corner,
first
man.
down, he got beat on a big. They needed it. It was like a 3rd and 4, and they needed it. And there's an out route that he just busted on. I don't know because he played cheetah a lot too in coverage, and
He played
he
some
got
safety
beat.
tonight
Yes, he
when
did.
RSJ had to, which by the way, RSJ, a dog.
Yeah,
That dude,
11 tackles in the first half. My
whoo,
goodness.
that dude has played some outstanding football through 4 games. Robert Spears Jennings, like the stock is maybe higher up on him through 4 games than anybody on this roster. He has
Agreed.
been so good.
Yeah. Uh, David Stone, he got in the rotation night, and he was good. By the way,
Brandon,
like
this defense
it's
as
not
a
like we
whole
didn't
was
call that
awesome.
though.
Like
Yeah,
this defense was awesome. Outside of the one bust that led to the long touchdown pass from Nico Iamaleava to Dante Thornton, Brandon, this defense played incredible football, especially
yeah.
given the circumstances, for all 60 minutes. And that the effort that they put out there tonight ought to have been good enough to win Oklahoma the football game.
God,
Yeah.
like
I mean,
21 points, man. They spotted them. Like they literally handed the offense. Here you go, bro. Here's 21 points. For all you have to do is one possession you barely had to go over 50 yards. The other ones you had to go 30,
yeah.
and the other one you had to go 4.5 yards.
And the last turnover by Jackson Arnold, I
Ugh.
think that showed you everything you need to know about where
You're
he's
talking about the
at. Like
skip pass.
his confidence is just shot. It's
Yeah,
just shot, and the easy things have become difficult for him. He's got a case of the yips, and that the throw that he made to Zion Reagan's that turned into the fumble that Tennessee recovered. Just such a bad throw, man. I mean, like
yeah,
reminiscent of a second baseman picking up an easy ground ball and then chucking it into the stand. Like that's a play that you expect a guy to make that he would make darn near 99 times out of 100, but
mm,
with where he's at mentally, he's overthinking everything and everything has become a chore. And
yeah.
I will be completely honest, Brandon. The feeling I have right now after this game is one of relief because I remember having a conversation with a program source after the Houston game, after Houston before Tulane, and I asked straight up, hey, like, is a quarterback change inevitable? Like, is this gonna happen at some point? And that source said, yes. Yes, it's gonna
Mm.
happen. It's just a matter of when. And I remember talking to another source earlier this week, and what that source had voiced to me was, man, this has to happen, regardless of what it looks like, how ugly or how uncomfortable it may be. It has to happen before Texas because if Oklahoma goes into the Cotton Bowl
Yeah.
with a with Jackson Arnold as the starter and his head is just like his confidence is shot, his head's not in the right place, and he's overthinking everything that he's doing out there, then you're collectively one giant sitting duck going up against Texas. And look, I wouldn't pick Oklahoma to win that football game right now against the Longhorns in 3 weeks, at least not after what we saw tonight. But again, you have the chance to get right next week against Auburn. You have the chance to build some confidence, to continue to sharpen some things up defensively, and for your new heir apparent at quarterback to play 60 minutes of ball and continue to hone in on the things that he needs to get better. Because he wasn't perfect tonight. It was a lot of good, but he wasn't
Yep.
perfect by any means. He's got some stuff that he still has to correct. But if you can use that Auburn game as a springboard and as a confidence builder for both your offensive and your defensive units, such that you can go into the Texas game, and I know they will go in with legit belief that they can win that game because they
Right.
expect to win every single game. But I do think it's possible that after next week's contest at Jordan Hare, we are all walking away going, okay, Oklahoma's got a shot. Oklahoma's got a shot to go up against Texas in the Cotton Bowl and beat them.
Well, you got a bye week as well, so you just got to get through this game five. Like you got to get through game five. You get through game five, and you're all right as long as you have the dub. And I think that like you said that I think that's essential. Um, I, and you got to get healthy. I think, and that's kind of where my head's at with all this is that bye week can't come fast enough for Oklahoma. That way they can just get healthy. Like give the kids a week off and just be like, look, do your treatment, come to the workouts, come to the film sessions, but like we're not gonna do a whole lot of craziness the first, 4 or 5 days of this bye week. Let your legs refresh. And then the last 3 days or so, and let's get 10 days of good work in or whatever. But they'll probably need 4 days off, right? Like I think that's where this team's at right now because obviously Brent Venables said that, Burks is day to day, all the guys that were dinged up are day to day. It sounded like he said Anderson was day to day as well. Is that what you gathered from his quote?
I mean, he said he
Basically said
restrained
Dolby
his
is
quad.
out.
So if
Yeah.
Anderson restrained his quad and you're basically back to square one,
Yeah.
when can you expect that guy to play at this point?
Do you think he's out? Like, I don't know. I mean, can he come back by Texas? Like, is that is that
Well,
is that
look, I
plausible?
will be candid, Brandon. I I think I have given up on the expectation that Nick Anderson and Andrell Anthony contribute anything this season.
Yeah.
And if
That's
they do, okay, great. That's a happy little surprise for you.
yeah.
But I don't think anybody should be operating under the expectation right now, just based on what we've seen, or rather haven't seen, that Nick Anderson or Andrell Anthony is going to be
So
playing a major role in this passing attack.
so essentially, what you're saying is you expect the Oompa Loompas to be the wide receiver crew.
Oh my gosh. But it's true,
And I
man.
don't,
Every
I
like,
don't, I don't say that as like a shot. I mean, like they're
yeah,
not
they're
tall.
small.
They're
They're small.
small.
Everybody out there tonight playing wide
You
receiver, with the exception of JJ Hester,
and
was
and and Zion Kearney.
did Zion Kearney make it out there? Was he on the field?
Yeah, he was out there a lot
Okay.
actually, several times actually. I'm speaking of, by the way, young guys, give it up, Jaquays Petaway. How about that?
Yeah, that was a
Welcome,
long time
welcome to the
coming for that
show,
kid.
brother.
Long time coming for that kid.
Yeah, I mean he
And
was awesome.
they're going to need him. Man, they're
Yeah,
going to need him. If you got Anderson and Anthony on the shelf and Burke's banged up and Farouk and Gibson already, like, goodness gracious, man.
yeah.
Every time I say it, it never becomes less astonishing. I'm
You
sitting
want to
here
know
like,
the total amount of yards from
wow.
2023 that are out, no matter where
Uh,
they play?
sure.
It's close to
Sure.
2,000. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I was about to say,
That's
yeah.
crazy. It's a lot of yards. But with Jaquays Petto, it felt like it did seem like Hawkins and Petaway have kind of a thing,
Yeah.
right? It felt like they kind of understood each
Well,
other.
and
Whereas,
you know what's super fascinating to think about is that the guys that Hawkins has been throwing to all spring and all fall on the practice
yeah,
field
second,
are these
second.
guys.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Did that make you feel a little bit better
I think it
knowing
probably
that there's a
does.
rapport or a chemistry there? But like, it's just,
You need
and it,
Ivan Carry on to show up, though. That's what you need.
yeah, you got to have some size that you
Yeah.
can lean on.
So, um, the defensive line,
You know
man.
who else you might be able to lean on at the wide receiver position that can offer some size if you want to go that route.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. Jacoby freaking Johnson, man. Like
I'm on board.
it's got to happen. Like it has to happen. At this point, you're looking at your wide receiver unit and you're going, "What? No, that no. You got to have some size, right? Okay,
Yeah.
well, what could we do if we're the University of Oklahoma?" And you're looking around. Wasn't there a guy that was viewed to be one of the best wide receivers in the country? And wasn't there a guy that's on the roster right now that there's some people that feel that he's still the best wide receiver on the roster?
Yeah.
Oh, he
Okay.
plays cornerback for the University of Oklahoma and
And
not wide receiver.
and he's
Weird.
not playing a whole heck of a lot at
He's
cornerback
not
right now. So
playing.
yeah, boy, and I just think with where you're at roster wise, depth wise, he could be much more of an asset for you at wide receiver right now than he could be at cornerback. But let me ask you
Yeah.
this: like, if you did, let's say everybody walks into the building on Monday and you tell Jacoby Johnson go over with the wide receivers, uh, would it be fair to expect that he could digest the playbook and be able to contribute in some meaningful capacity by Saturday? Like, is that a one
Yes.
week that can happen?
Yes. Yes. Baker Mayfield showed up on a Thursday morning or a Wednesday night, right? And
Well, he's Baker Mayfield.
for the whatever. And he learned the playbook in one sitting, like crammed it. And if anybody knows Jacoby Johnson, like Jacoby Johnson was like, he's like an outstanding student. And so he can pick it up. Like he's smart enough to pick that up and do it easy. Mind you, he doesn't have to know everything. He's just got to know what he need, like specifically the routes you're going in the plays you're
Yeah.
going to run with him in there, the packages you're going to have, whether that's 30 plays or whatever. Hey, Jacoby, I need you to know the verbiage in your assignment on these 30 plays. That's it. We will add another 30 plays next week, or we'll add 60 since you got a bye week in another week.
Is
We will make you ready for that Texas game. But dude, we've got to have you. And if we got to do something extra during the game, okay, we'll adapt and we'll get you to do it, but we're not going to ask that of you a lot. Some, but not a lot. Just get these 30 plays and the other plays that we ask of you, they're going to have some sort of semblance to the plays that we told you needed to know. So I think that's where they would have to go with that. And I think they would.
well, it seems like we're the only ones talking about this, Brandon. So it begs the question: are we geniuses or are we just idiots rambling into microphones?
Well,
Let us know
probably
in the
that's the
comments.
latter. Probably the
Geniuses,
latter.
idiots. Let us know.
Well, just go ahead and be honest. Just call us idiots, and we'll move on here. Um, that's where that's headed in the comments, Parker. I don't know why you threw a softball up and told them to go ahead and swing for the fences on that, but you did. Um, but I mean, fact of the matter is that multiple people within the Switzer Center have said Jacoby Johnson may be the best wide receiver on that roster, and yet he's playing corner. And they're not the people that are saying this are not saying it. They're the people that are saying that are very, 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 very football smart people. Like that, they don't say those things unless they know it. And that's the weird part about this. But it's almost like there's this fight. I remember when Billy Bowman was recruited to Oklahoma, that huge fight within the staff over, oh, is he going to play offense? Is he going to play defense? And finally, Lincoln Riley pushed him over to um, Alex Grinch. and it's worked out great for him.
Yes, it has.
But I think this time around, you've got to be able to make this adjustment. Some of the best wide receivers in OU history, Antoine Savage, right? He played
Yeah.
corner. Andre Wolfel, corner. Obviously, he ended up going back and getting drafted by the Tennessee Titans in the first round as a cornerback, but he went back and forth. Curtis Fagan was a safety, I believe, or a defensive back, and they moved him over to wide receiver.
Yeah.
So like there's precedent for it
There is.
at Oklahoma. It's got to be done. It has to be done at some
You
point.
gotta inject some life into this offense,
You
right?
got
And
it's
I think you
size.
have. I think you
Yeah.
have with Hawkins. That's a start. But you got to give Hawkins somebody that's more of a complete, more of an all-around threat
Mhm.
at wide receiver. And that's what Jacoby Johnson is, or can be, I guess, from what we've seen of him playing wide out at the high school level.
Mhm.
And you
He's
also just
special.
you got to figure out the run game, man. That's got to be, and I don't know what it looks like. I know what it doesn't look like, and it doesn't look like going back to the well with the same play design over and over and over again tonight. It wasn't working, Brandon. It was
Outside
not
zone
working.
was
Yeah, outside zone did
ran
work,
it twice. And
and
once all they had to do, all Bauer Sharp just need to actually just touch somebody. That's all he had to do is touch somebody, and Franklin is still running. He's still running.
they can't run between the tackles at all right now.
No, no, they can't. It was kind of scary on that fourth down where they decided to go with Barnes up the gut, which, mm, and I wasn't sure if he got across. Half his body was across, but I think it was because it was like PTSD, like from the
Yeah.
previous. He's like, I don't know if
Hey,
he got
Javante
in.
had both touchdowns tonight.
Yeah, he did.
Shout out. Well done.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, the linebackers, Lewis Carter was amazing tonight.
Lewis Carter
Um,
was so good.
yeah,
So good.
obviously
Like
RSJ,
I don't know if you can really
Jaden
like
Jackson was phenomenal too.
you
By the
can't
way,
poke holes in the way that defensive front seven played. They were
no,
great. The issues defensively, when there were issues, which was quite infrequently, the issues were in the secondary.
Trace Ford,
Trace
what
Ford,
a
hello.
he
Little
had a
strip
hell of a
sack.
game. Yeah, and he had two big TFLs in the game. So he had a fantastic game as well. Oh, the defense you can just I don't think there's
Tennessee couldn't run the
enough.
ball, Brandon. Tennessee
No,
could not run the ball. Which again, like this is why this one's going to be so frustrating to look back on for many fans
yeah,
because you did everything you needed to do defensively to win the football game tonight. And the offense just wasn't there. At
it
least
was
when and they came around, but it was too little, too late. And it
yeah,
took a
it was
quarterback
bad.
switch.
It was bad. Yeah, I don't know. Jaden Jackson was good. Ethan Downs was really good. But look, at the end of the day, you can speak superlatives about the defense all day, and I don't think you won't run out because they were that good. And Pete, some people, well, if they're so good, why did they give up 25 points? Well, let me explain this to you. I don't get why they went for it on fourth down in the first half. I was so confused on that short on the
You
50-yard line.
yeah,
I,
4th and 2 in no man's land. I mean, I get that. Like
okay, I got it, but at the same time, I thought it that point in time in the game, you played field position. Like you needed to go play field position, and maybe something changed if you would have done that. Maybe Arnold figured something out and scored a ton. I don't know. Shoot, I'm just wishing on the well there, but I mean, and then when it was like 4th and 2 later on, and you're like at the 30, kick the field goal, which is fine, he made it, but could have went for it. It was 2 yards. Go get your 2 yards, man. You were gonna go for it on the 50. Why not? If points aren't what you're after exclusively, and you want like the big points, six, go for it. Get
Uh,
the momentum on your side, man.
And I think I can't remember whether it was you or Brian that mentioned this in the rapid reaction following the game, but I I I know I was having a conversation with somebody, could not tell you who, in the post-game press conference room about this very topic because it is one of the major positive takeaways from tonight. And I know there aren't many, but this team did not fold, man.
How was you, man?
They did
Yeah.
not fold. And
No.
it would have been real easy with the way things were going there towards the end of the first half to just mentally check out and mail it in the rest of the way.
Mhm.
And they fought, man. I mean, hey, you have a shot at a 2-point conversion there with a minute and change left, where all of a sudden, if you convert there, it's a one possession game and you don't have to onside kick. You can kick deep. And with the way your defense is playing, you can very well expect, maybe not expect, but you can hope, like you can have legit hope that you force a 3-and-out, call your 3 timeouts, get the ball back with a minute left, and maybe just maybe you have a chance to tie the game.
Yeah. I I
I
agree.
loved the way they fought on both sides of the ball. And I think that started with Michael Hawkins, the kid. Again, he left it all out there.
Hmm.
He was he battled all night, all the way till that final horn, which again, like that's that right there. Seeing the way that he fought, especially on those last couple of possessions, to get you within striking distance and give you a glimmer of a chance to
Yeah.
be able to pull even. That's a guy you can get behind next week and ideally moving forward beyond that.
Dude, the flip, the whole team's behind him after that. Doesn't matter if
Yeah.
he didn't get on. The team's behind him because if you're gonna sell your body out like that, they're gonna everybody's gonna be behind you. I think that's clear as day to me at this point. Who are offensively, defensively? Give me your MVPs and let's cut this thing out, man. It's almost 3:15.
And I still got to produce it all when we get there.
I've been up since 5:30 in the morning. I am an hour and a half, 2 hour is an hour, I don't know. 2.5
My
hours away, 2 hours and 15 minutes away from being up 24 hours. I am dead.
my selections are very straightforward and I think very clear cut from what I witnessed tonight. My offensive MVP is Michael Hawkins.
Yeah.
He gives you life moving forward. I think gives you a chance to salvage this season. And it's weird to be
No,
having
I'll
that
agree with
conversation
you
when
on that.
Oklahoma's. It's weird, yeah. And I'll allow you to agree with me.
Thank you. Had
Um,
away with the other one, but yeah, that's
yeah.
yes.
Look, maybe you get on a roll.
Hmm.
Maybe so. I mean, you're 3-1. It's one loss in the loss column. You can still win a lot of football games this
Yes.
fall, especially
This
you can still win a lot of football games.
this defense, you are an 8-4, 9-3
This
team,
this
maybe even
defense is
better than
going
that.
to enable
Yes,
you
you're
to
gonna
win a lot
win.
of football games.
You're gonna win some games you might even shouldn't because of the defense.
Yeah,
So
and
I
there are
just
so many folks that it's just embedded in their head that Oklahoma plays mediocre defense. The offense has to be superb in order for them to win. There are so
no.
many people walking away from that game going, "Oh, Oklahoma's a 6-6 team at best." That might be generous, but no, man, with the shape that defense is in,
Yeah, no.
you're gonna have a chance to win a lot of football games the rest of the
Hmm.
way. But there's going to be a lot on Michael Hawkins' shoulders as the guy that kind of has to be the catalyst offensively to put you in those winning positions. Defensively, my MVP tonight was Robert Spears Jennings. I mean, I cannot say enough about the way that he has played through the first 4 games of the season. I am blown away by
Yeah,
that dude because all the talk going into the season, and deservedly so, at the safety position surrounded Peyton Bowen and Billy Bowman. But Robert Spears Jennings has been Oklahoma's best safety by a country mile through 4 games.
he has. He has. Wow. I will go. Man, Parker, this one's tougher than I thought it was gonna be. I will go. Let me see.
Knee jerk reaction. Who did you
My
like
knee-jerk
defensively? Who
reaction
caught your
is
eye?
Lewis Carter.
Okay, there you go. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a good choice.
he was third or fourth in tackles. but I just can't get that play on that swing pass out of my head. Like that was
He
so awesome.
blew that thing up.
That was and I think that you want to know my first reaction when I saw that was nationally. I think that was the play where everybody realized, like, I think watching it, the whole world of college football when they watched that play go down, and this is what I thought instantly when I saw that was, oh God, Oklahoma has a defense. Like they're good.
Yep.
And then they just backed it up the rest of the game. And that's I from everything I've heard, I haven't got to watch the obviously the playback of the it sounds like that's all Herb Street like just apparently he just gawked over that defense the whole game. Like, oh my God, this defense is and it's impressive, man. They just held the team that scored 50 plus points 3 weeks in a row to 25.
I tell you, man, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's in the Tennessee market on the Tennessee beat during the game in the
Yeah.
fourth quarter. And of course, Oklahoma's offense is still kind of floundering at that point, still trying to kick things into gear and get them back in the game. But he said, man, that defensive front seven is unbelievable. They
Mm-hmm.
have monsters in the front seven. He said Tennessee probably isn't going to face another defense that can go toe to toe with this Oklahoma unit the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
again, that's to hear it from somebody on the other side
yep.
as as the team that they cover is winning by multiple possessions. I mean, that
It,
just that tells you that's not one sided right there. That's not propaganda. This
it's
defense is
not.
good.
It's not. And we talked about it on the rapid reaction. Jesse and I were sitting there talking to the Tennessee guys to our right, and they all said the same thing. Outside of Georgia, or I guess it was 2022. Uh, I think it was when Hendon Hooker was the was it
2022. Yeah.
yeah, it was 2022 was their QB. And they said they went to Georgia. They said outside of that game, this Oklahoma team, that defense, that's it. Like I said, who are the best defense y'all played? They said 2022 Georgia, 2024 Oklahoma. They said without question, and it's not close. And again, they've played elite. You remember before the game, everybody was talking about, oh, well, Iowa's defense is blah, blah, blah. And I think that got shut down during game day when Herb Street just crapped all over that, and Saban did too. They're like, Tennessee keeps talking about playing Iowa. They're not in the same realm. The athletes are different. The team's different. The defense is different. They go about it a completely different way, but Oklahoma, the way they do it is much more. It's harder to do, and I think that's the kind of the gist of what they were saying is just their athletes everywhere at Oklahoma make it so much better than what Iowa is. And that's not a knock on Iowa. They're just if Iowa and Oklahoma played right now, I don't know that they would cross 50. Their offense is bad. So I mean it's always bad. So anyways, yeah. I think that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners post game podcast powered by Janet King. If you're not a member of OU Insider, $9.95 a month, $99.95 will get you a whole year, $9.95 will get you a month. If you're a college student, email us from a .edu. Again, .edu email. You email ouinsider@rivals.com. Again, ouinsider@rivals.com, and we will give you a full year for just one payment of $11.95, which averages out to less than $1 a month. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe to whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. I'm telling you, we bring content every day to every one of those things. So if you give us a like, a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, give us 5 stars on all the podcasting platforms, please, 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 please. Um, and that's going to do it. All right. For Parker Thune, my name's Brandon Drum. Oklahoma lost 25-15. The defense played good. The offense played bad. Michael Hawkins looks like he's going to be pretty freaking good once he figures everything out. And we will see you next week for Auburn. You all have a blessed day.